You've got a meeting in 10 minutes to talk about your organization's approach to SLOs, but you don't know what problem they solve. Never fear. I'll give you a basic understanding of SLOs and related terms with the aid of the English set of vowels. What's more, I'll do it in less than 10 minutes. This is what I originally wanted the title of this talk to be, but writing it out just looks insane. And trying out the phonetics really didn't help at all. No matter, we'll get through this. But you may be wondering who that bearded beauty is, and why is he talking to me? Well, I'm Waldo. I used to be a productive member of society, but I come from the world of systems and operations engineering. Today, I'm going to tell you how SLOs can help you to have a healthy relationship with availability, and how to decide between new feature development or improving resilience. To start it off, all of the SL in this series stands for service level. The service in question is whatever apps that you are running. And since you're providing a service, we can infer that you have customers. Whether internal or external, your customer's experience should be top of mind when considering availability targets. This is not to say that you should be targeting 4 nines of availability. It's not that 4 nines isn't a good target, but there are reasonable considerations that might make it the wrong target for you. Our first vowel is A for availability. If you're familiar with any of these, it's probably SLAs. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's mainly the purview of lawyers. Service level agreements are part of a contract between two entities describing promises of services, often with financial penalties if you fail to meet your obligations. This is almost always between a service provider and a customer who pays money for those services. These are often written so that a service provider will rarely, if ever, have to pay the penalty. Other than ensuring that your overall SLOs are more restrictive than your SLAs, they don't have much of a relationship with SLOs. Now seems like a good time to point out that I'm not going to go through the letters in alphabetical order. I'm sorry, but it just wouldn't make sense to do it that way. Our next letter is O for service level objectives. Service level objectives are a way of measuring the health of your systems based on how your end users experience them. They are a target value for your service's availability. The idea is to pick a reasonable value that should be maintained or strive for your given services. An SLO is expressed as the percentage of a metric threshold over a period of time. Here we have two SLO examples, where you can see the ratio of the metric that we cared about and the time window. These measures are subtly different. Consider that the second doesn't explicitly state a successful request, only that it completed in under 500 milliseconds. Reliable failure conditions are indicators too. This metric that we're using for our SLO is the SLI, the next letter in our series, which stands for Service Level Indicator. This is a new term for something that you're already familiar with, a metric. However, it is a metric with special significance. The most common question that comes up here is, what metric makes a good SLI? The simplest way to frame the answer is to choose an indicator that represents the user experience. There are an immense number of metrics that are available to you, but a framework that can help you stay focused is the 4 golden signals. Choosing metrics that represent the latency, error rate, amount of traffic, or saturation of your resources can help you narrow down what it might be most useful as an SLI. Before we move on to the rest of the SL letters, there's one more neat topic that I need to cover, and that's error budgets. I'd mentioned them before, but quite simply, it is the remainder of your time period after accounting for your SLO percentage. If you take the example of an SLO of 99% over 7 days, that gives you 1.68 hours of unavailability to work with. If you don't feel like doing the maths, Google's provided a chart of some common SLO terms. Just like any other budget at work, you want to use all of it up. I mentioned earlier that SLO is a target. That is to say, you want to come as close to that as possible. It's not a good thing if you have 100% availability for your time period. It typically means that you haven't taken enough chances or run enough experiments during this past time period. The two main categories of outages are background unavailability and incidents. Changes, such as deployments and other launches, is the primary cause of incidents. A common question is, when should I look at my SLO status? Now, you should have your current SLO status close at hand, but I think there are three main times when you should actively check it. First, when alerted of an outage. If you have budget to spare, you might decide to finish what you're working on before addressing the alert. Second, when you're preparing to deploy a change, you should consider if you have the budget to spare should something go wrong. And third, when you're ready to pick up your next task, you could use your SLO status to decide whether to work on a new feature or work towards improving your application's resilience. Now, getting back to our vowels, the next one is SLE for environments. I've worked in places that didn't have one prod environment or two, but 30. Everything was considered pager-worthy, even though only one environment was user-facing at a time. If you have multiple environments, as part of your SLOs and your API documentation, you should be clear about what things like, for instance, your staging environment is for. Is it for your team to test things? Is it for other teams to test integration with your service? What kind of availability are you promising for your staging environment? Our next letter is U for updates. You see, SLOs aren't intended to be written in stone. You should review your SLOs and related promises to ensure that they still make sense. Are you targeting a reasonable and proper uptime? Has your service become a greater dependency than intended? For example, you're a 3.9 service, but something critical to the business has 4.9s, and they have a hard dependency on you. And the opposite could be true. It's surprisingly common how suddenly a proof of concept becomes mission critical. When you think that you could use a service level update, put out a quick survey or an RFC on it to your customers, especially if they're internal. And when a decision is made, update your docs and communicate your decision broadly, especially to your internal customers. Now, finally, we come to SLY. Yes, I cheated here, but it's still SLY. Coming up with SLOs is the first step towards bringing sanity to the operation of your products. In too many places, any outage is considered an emergency. If our businesses demand 100% uptime, we don't have time to experiment, innovate, or even make healthy mistakes. Here's the thing. The truth is that building individual services so that they are resilient to faults and their dependencies makes for a better user experience. Additionally, having a healthier relationship with faults by preventing every fault from being a 3-alarm emergency allows teams more comfort and flexibility when faults occur, thus making individual engineers more willing to own the resilience and availability of their services. Today, we've covered all of the service letter vowels and how SLOs can help you balance new feature development with availability, all while keeping the customer experience front of mind. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and wish you good luck in your meeting. If you're interested in a free trial with DataDog, please visit datadoghq.com. Thank you.